Thanks for listening to DIY for Business. It's Russ and Greg with you. Greg, how's it going?
Doing really good. How about yourself, Russ?
I'm doing well. Loving the artwork in the background.
Do you like the third shot little artwork that we had
Yes.
custom painted by Mo over at Hot Stuff Pickleball? She hand painted it, she authenticated it, and sent us it. So very, very cool. Thank you, Mo.
That is awesome. It's like it's a little little
It's a
subliminal
Van
message in
Gogh.
the background to remind people to
Yeah,
listen to the third shot.
exactly. Listen to Third Shot. It's very artistic. We have a lot of fun and take some shots with us.
There you go.
Yep.
Exactly. I mean, that's a great marketing statement right there. Who doesn't want to do all of that?
Right?
Right? Like you want to listen, you want to have and you want to have shots.
You want to have shots. You want to have
There
fun.
you go.
Listen to our craziness.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I've got news for you. I this is like breaking news.
Okay.
So you know how we're renting out that co-working space, right? And
Yeah.
loving the co-working space. It's been fantastic. And I mean, come on, espresso shots all day, like as many as I can have. That's great. Getting
Right.
to know people at the place, great. Right across the street, they have this thing that's like this art studio where they do various things, and they have improv right across the street. So I'm like,
That is
well,
so
this is going to
perfect.
work out well for me. So now I'm leaving Mondays,
Right.
right when I'm done with work, walk across the street and play around for like 4 hours. It's so much fun.
Wow. That is so perfect for you.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. And
W
I even get a train ride in all of this. So I take the train up, do some work all day, unwind at night,
Do you
jump on
get
the
to
train back. It's a
do
beautiful
your motorized scooter from the train station to the office?
thing. I haven't done that yet. I have been trying to I've been trying to walk a little bit more these days. And actually this is another big breaking news. I'm walking like 5 miles a day.
Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing
Wow.
it now. I'm 4 weeks in, so that's a big change.
You are
And
walking more than I'm driving.
yeah, exactly, right? Well, you know what I've been doing? I've been listening to, I've got so many like random, businessy books, marketing books that I want to read and check out.
Right.
And I have this app. It's called Everand. It used to be called Scribed. They changed it. It's now Everand. But anyway, I listen to books, do this little walk, and it's like I get into this groove. I'm like, 3 miles in, I'm like, I got to keep going. I got to hear where this goes. I got to get to this next little bit here, and then I keep going, and and then I get back. Or on occasion, I'll do a Zoom meeting or something like that while I'm doing a little walk. So it's been really cool.
That is cool. That is cool. I have the opposite going on in my life.
Yeah,
I am not leaving my office. Like,
yeah,
I am stuck here. It's doing work, it's constant, it's podcasting, which I love, but I'm still not leaving my office. But I did have one day last week where I had to go to an in-person meeting, and it was worth it. But it was in Millbrae, you know where I live, so I had
oh
to go
yeah,
across the bridge to Millbrae. Beautiful town, had fun,
hmm
had a great meeting, and then spent 3 hours in traffic trying to get home.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
35 miles, it took me 3 hours to get home.
yeah. Well, that's
And
why that's why I love the ferry. I love the train
yeah,
because I don't want to sit in that.
I know, and it made me realize, what am I complaining about getting stuck in my office anymore? I love getting stuck in my office. Forget
There's
that 3 hours stuck in traffic.
Yeah, there's a great Seinfeld bit that I love. He does this whole thing of let's see, how does it go? So it's wherever we are, we don't want to be there. It's like we wake up in the morning, oh, I got to go to work. I got to get out of here. And then, like while you're at work, you're like, oh, I want to get home. I got to get home. And then you get home and you're like, I want to go out. Why don't I go out? Or you go to a flight. You're like, you get on the plane, like, oh man, when does this thing land? I want to get off this plane. Oh, they're blocking the door. I need to get off this plane. I need to go, and you're just always like that. That
Right.
is sort of true though, isn't it?
It is. It
You
is. You're never
always want to be doing
satisfied.
something else.
You're always looking for something else.
Exactly. But I mean, if you do just stay in the office, it's like staying like the master villains They always stay in their little caves, right? So you got to be careful there.
Until they want to burn down the city.
Exactly. You don't
Then
want
they
to
come
become a
out,
supervillain. Right,
right?
right. Yeah. Well, actually, maybe you do. Maybe you do want to become a supervillain. I'm not sure. We've got Jesse James Wroblewski. I said it right? I feel like I nailed that. Um, joining us today.
No, you did not
Uh,
nail it. Jesse, tell them how to really say it.
all right, let's maybe go ahead and say it, Jesse.
You got those 3 words: row, blue, ski.
Oh no, I messed it up. Okay, all right. Well, I'm not a super hero of names. Maybe more on the supervillain. You've got a book about supervillains. I'll let you kind of introduce yourself here a little bit to our audience.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys. My name is Jesse James Wroblewski, and I've been running an agency, doing the agency thing for about 25 years. And I think when the pandemic hit, everyone kind of took a little step back, took an exhale, did some soul searching. And during that soul search, I had a shipping container shipped to my backyard because I had to shut down my big, beautiful headquarters. And I just started building a supervillain lair, AKA a video studio, and just started, figuring out what I wanted to do when I grew up, right? I never really figured it out. And just kind of going through all the most rewarding work that I've done in the past 25 years. And most of the time it was, taking a product, usually the more boring, the better, and taking the challenge and injecting so much life into that product that it stands out in its industry. So love to do that. Those are my prize, my tentpole projects that I've always kind of fell back on. I said, you know what? Why don't I just do this and only this and figure out a way to, being differentiated as kind of abstract and artsy, maybe I could put a science behind it and figure out how to exactly achieve differentiation.
Nice.
That's really cool. I mean, again, the name of the book is Marketing for Supervillains, Not Superheroes. And I think that's very conscious on your part. Please tell
Absolutely.
everybody the thinking behind that.
Yeah, so for a smaller guy or someone that's in the industry, entering the industry, or a large brand kind of emerges, right? The big brand in your industry is kind of like the superhero. They have huge public favor. They have big muscles, which in marketing equates to big budgets. And for the smaller guy to go head to head with that superhero and try to outspend them, try to do more social media, more SEO, it's usually a recipe for failure. So most supervillains, they're hiding out in their caves. They don't have big muscles. They don't have all the resources that a superhero has. So they got to use their brains to outsmart the big guy in the industry. So a lot of this book, there's a lot of parallels to the supervillain life, but that's kind of like the main theme. How do you use a little to achieve a lot?
I like that because I did, I guess I sort of cast myself as the hero in the story when I was running my business, and we had these, big, like, companies that I was like, oh, there's no way I'm gonna be able to achieve what they've achieved. And then I remember, I was at it was an event company. I was at an event. I met somebody, and that person was the owner of another company. His biggest contractor was that my competitor. I'm like, wow, if I'm friends with this guy, this is going to help me out.
Yep.
And so and I actually really hit it off with the person, and we're still actually great friends today. But it was like, this, I guess, is kind of supervillain of me, huh? When I look back at it, maybe I was a supervillain.
Absolutely. You take your shots. I think of marketing like a football line, right? Everybody's doing this, especially with social media these days. Everybody's kind of doing this. If you could find a hole in the line and get through there where no one's really looking and get a couple yards, so be it.
Yeah.
That's always the thing too. It's like, it's just finding that little spot, that little thing that somebody else isn't doing, and then just jumping into it and just going all in. And not always easy, but it's something that you can do that can really help you out, whether it be, traditional marketing, or like I've done a lot of that with like Google ads throughout the years.
Yeah.
And that's something where you can really find those holes and just really push into those and make magic, make clicks happen.
Yep. Riches and niches. Yep.
Well, that's one of Russ's things right there.
Exactly. I love that saying.
Yep.
I mean, Jesse, one of the things in my history is that I was in the golf industry, and you know, the superheroes were the Titleists, the Pings, the Callaways of the world, right? They had the billions of dollars in marketing, and then here's little Greg starting a golf company. Like, how do I compete? And I said, okay, well, I'm going to be the niche. I'm going to have custom built golf clubs. This is back in the early 90s when it was very difficult to have a golf club made specifically for your swing, for your body type. Now all the big guys are doing it. They followed Greg. They obviously saw what I was doing, right? And they figured out, how do I compete with Greg? But one of the things that we figured out is like, well, we got to get the message out there. How do we get the message out there when we don't have billions of dollars in marketing? So what did we do? We started a golf radio show and talked about golf. We kind of built our brand, and then we used the advertising time to promote our stores. Like something very, very different than any other golf store was doing at that time. And I think that's kind of one of the strategies that you work with your clients on, is like, how do you be different? How do you find that extra 2 yards that nobody else is finding right now? How do you find that hole? So talk a
Absolutely.
little bit about like, how do you get to that place with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of clients, I found that I was doing this almost subliminally or knee jerk. I was kind of trying to stack the deck for myself so I could be successful. So I'd get a client, they'd come to me, they sell VoIP phone systems. And they say, all right, I'm going to write you a check. You put me on social media, you do AdWords. And I'm like, you're one of a million. You do AdWords, you're competing with AT&T for phone systems. What makes you different? Are you, the phone system for agencies? Like, what is that? So I kind of, knee-jerk reaction. I wanted to be successful. I didn't want to just, put up pictures of phones, for the next 6 months on Facebook. So a little selfishly, I was trying to guide my clients, not really knowing what I was doing. And then when I took a step back, once I realized this is what I love to do, I just devoured everything I can get on differentiation, on unique sales propositions, and then figuring out, hey, a lot of these books, they tell you, yep, find your differentiator, go out and tell the world about it. They don't tell you how to do it. And most importantly, once you figure it out, how the hell you're going to get this message out to the masses. So we call it the universe of differentiation. I took the 12 most common ways that brands throughout history, large and small, have successfully decommoditized themselves. And when people hear, differentiated or different, sometimes it has like a negative connotation. Different can be odd or weird. And people ask me, do I have to be outlandish? Do I have to be the funny guy, dressed funny in the room to stand out? And the answer is absolutely not. We have brands like Rolex, Steinway, Tiffany's in the universe of differentiation. And you probably never really associate them with the word different. But in the business world, they're absolutely differentiated and they stand head and shoulders above the rest. So that was kind of my thinking and part of my process that I walk my current clients through to try and help find their one planet in the universe, to find a real authentic differentiator. And then once we find that planet, who's living on that planet? Are they highly affluent? Are they people with anxieties and they don't want to approach you? Something like web design, they don't understand the language. How do we appeal to the population of that planet? So there's definitely some step-by-step processes that are included in the book to try to uncover this somewhat abstract thought of your one special thing, your differentiator, your USP.
You mentioned like kind of the customer, you're talking about like who they are, what they are. How much does like the customer feedback go into this process?
Yeah, so we have a 4-week kind of onboarding process. We call it the DOA, differentiation opportunity analysis. And that first week is total brand history. And a big question I get asked, a big theme in the book is speaking to marketers to kind of champion their ideas, right? So if you guys are in marketing, client comes to you, they want to be out of the box, you make them out of the box, and then they say, whoa, I don't want to be that far out of the box. Let's sand down the rough edges. So, part of that process is uncovering, I tell my clients, I'm great at making you stand out, but I'm terrible at reading minds. So if you have any preconceived I don't think I can be funny. I don't think I should be, highly top quality. I'm a little insecure about the quality of my product. We uncover what those fears are, and that helps us guide throughout this process of 12 planets. So feedback is 100% important. People, always ask me, you go through the process, you get someone this great campaign, it's out there, it's differentiated, people are scared of change. How do you push them over the finish line? And it really shouldn't be a push. So if you do all your work, up front, everyone should be, on the same page. And that final, leg of the marathon is, here's the data. The data supports this. Should we go with the data, or should we just go, back into the rank and file of everyone else in the industry? So it can be scary. Change is scary, but done correctly, uncovering anxieties and insecurities and using the data to your advantage, definitely a great way to achieve differentiation.
Yeah. So, there's so many different ways to get the message out there nowadays, right? A lot of people are, thinking just digitally, but there's other ways as well. And does it really depend on what the service or the product is, or what the audience you're trying to reach? Does that determine which medium you kind of push them to help them market themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most people come to me and say, all right, love your book. How much is it going to cost? And I say, I have no idea, right? I don't know if your differentiator needs to be a Super Bowl commercial. I don't know if it needs to go in the local paper. I don't know if you need 10 commercials, 0 commercials.
Trade shows, right?
Yep. So it's all about that planet and who lives there. You may need absolutely 0 digital because your audience responds to something else. So that's kind of the tough part when you get a client that's ready to go and full in on everything you believe. You got to say, all right, let's do the onboarding process. From there, at the end of 4 weeks, not only will you have your differentiator, you'll have a projected marketing budget as to how to land this differentiation. And you might, during that process, they might say, I have unlimited budget, or I have X amount of budget. And we say, you know what, this is a great message, but it's going to be way too hard to get it, into people's heads with your existing budget. So let's go on to this planet, and we can use a lot more cost-effective means to get your message out there.
One of the things I really love about your website is your video. You have a great video that you created. Is that something that's pretty common now with your clients, is creating a video that kind of explains who they are and what their message is?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 things. Video is super sexy. Social media is super sexy. And I find that I kill more social media campaigns than I create, because the knee-jerk reaction is, okay, business is slowing down, I'm flatlining. Let me write a check to someone and put me on social media with absolutely no strategy behind it, right? I'm going to post, pictures of golf clubs 5 times a day, and, the phone's going to start ringing. So on one hand, social media, can be great, but it's a super, super crowded space. You're posting a picture of the swag you just got with your logo on it. That means nothing to nobody. And the next post is Netflix's latest, miniseries. How are you planning on competing in that environment? The nice thing is it's completely free to post, but it's completely free to everybody. So it's this dogfight of garnering trying to steal people's attention. And that's the kind of mindset you got to go in if you're going to go heavy into social or video.
I feel like a common mistake there too is just people that are doing that, and they're constantly switching agencies or switching people that are managing their social. So there's like 0 consistency with that. Do you see that a lot?
Absolutely. Doing this for 25 years, it's so hard to say no to somebody, right? You design their website, they're like, oh, you do social media? Yeah, we do social media. And sure enough, in 6 months, they're no longer a client, and they have sore feelings. Now, in the past 3, 4, 5 years, we almost have 0 social media clients, because we tell them, hey, if this is your strategy, we're really not interested. We need to do social media correctly in order to get you, proper ROI, because in 6 months, you're going to be mad at me, even though this was all your idea. You're not going to remember that in 6 months.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. It's a tough market, and it requires a lot of strategy.
So if you've been doing this for 25 years, this is basically like pre-social media. Let's think back now, 25 years ago, is there something that you were doing then that you're still doing now, despite
So
all the change that's happened?
yeah, I mean, it's funny because we're now the topic of the day is AI, right? And like AI time is like dog year time. Like something that happened a month ago in AI is like 7 years old at this point. It's ancient
Right.
history. And I literally started my career off of an AOL disc that I got in the mail, dial up, 40 free hours, designing websites like that. And I've always been a tinkerer, right? So when Flash animation came around, I was all in. I tried to become world class at Flash animation. One of the stories in my book is, I don't know if you ever heard of them. They're almost pop culture references now, but the Insane Clown Posse.
Oh yeah.
Pretty out there. So they threw a worldwide website design contest way back in the day, and I designed this cutting edge Flash website, and I won. And they flew me out to their house, fun stuff. So not necessarily the technology that I'm still using today, but just always like tinkering and just inputting new technology into old technology to just keep it on the cutting edge. We're always garnering, fighting for that attention. So, staying on the cutting edge, it's a lot of competition out there. So being different and standing out, you got to be on your game.
You mentioned AI, and I'm just curious from an AI point of view, obviously it's constantly evolving, but does it coming up with something new that you could use?
So I say AI is synonymous with efficiency. It is completely not synonymous with innovation, right?
Yeah.
So it'll do things in mass. It'll create social media ads, 50, 100 different versions, formats, layouts, but it's not going to come up with a great idea. So right now it's really not known for innovation. Big thing now is AI generated video. And I think that's going to follow the same trajectory as CGI, right? So the first like mainstream CGI thing was like Jurassic Park, and everyone was like, "You got to see this! It's a spectacle! It's amazing." Now, if you tell someone the movie's a CGI extravaganza, they're like, I really don't want to see that. I like practical." So I think there's going to be a big boom in AI generated video, and then you just can't escape that uncanny valley. You can't connect in that authentic way. So that's kind of my prediction for AI. Someone said, "Look, human beings shouldn't be doing things that robots can do," and I kind of agree with that. If it's something that's just repetitive and a robot can take your place, take the person out of that and let them innovate.
Yeah. So can you use AI in this whole unique marketing proposition or differentiation that you're talking about? Can AI help you with that?
So I think the short answer is no. So I kind of came up with this theory about 6 years ago. I went to a screenplay trade show in your neck of the woods in Hollywood to sell a TV show that I was pitching. And there was all this stuff going on, and I just kind of wandered into this data seminar. And the guy giving the seminar was very dry, very boring, but he said something. He said, "This is the first time this happened throughout the entire course of human history." And that little dot on the graph was people are openly willing to accept paying more for less, right? So what does that mean? It means up until this point, your cable company would give you 200 channels for $100 a month, maybe 50 cents a channel. People are now willing to say, and nowadays it's common knowledge, I'll pay $5 for the BBC. I don't want the 200 channels. So people are willing to pay more for less content because discoverability is so difficult. So there's been I call it human climate change, a huge change on how humans consume content, right? So we have this kind of trajectory where social media opened and every platform was like, please join, create content, get your friends to join. Then all of a sudden there was too much content and they invented the algorithm, right? So it kind of throttled back all your content being seen. Now imagine what's going to happen when someone can just create content in mass, right? So now there's going to be way too much content. So it's going to be very interesting to see how we as humans filter out this commoditized content to really focus on what we want. There's just way too much content out there. No one's really figured out the discoverability play. And I think that's going to be the big thing for the future. Figuring out, there's plenty of stuff out there. My next favorite thing in the world is probably on YouTube, and I may never find it because there's just so much stuff on it.
Right.
So there's so much stuff, and YouTube's, feeding you based on the algorithms what you've already watched. So it's going to keep you in that channel, right? It's going to, same thing with Netflix. If you start watching a certain genre, you're going to get fed a whole bunch of that genre, and it's very difficult to find. So my secret there is I keep asking my wife, because she doesn't like the same stuff I like watching, but I ask her what she's watching just so I can go onto her feed and see what they're recommending to her. And then I do it for my daughter. So I see all the different recommendations, because I got to broaden what I'm just watching. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I liken it back to the days of flipping through channels, right? I was flipping through the channels last night. I discovered this movie I never saw before. Like those days are gone. Now it's like, you get this and that and only that. So yeah, I mean, someone that kind of brings
fool the algorithm nowadays.
Yeah. Someone that brings back that mentality of being able to just flip through stuff and discover new things, I think is going to be a big winner in the space.
Yeah, totally. And I actually, this is something that I watched just the other day, because I watch all these history things and business things, and like on when I'm on YouTube, and I watched this this thing about Sears and Roebuck when they first started, right? And like all of the like things that they were doing, they were basically selling watches at first to, like they found a box of watches somehow, and they're selling these watches and doing, like it became this huge brand. And I'm thinking, I'm sitting here and I'm watching this long piece about Sears right now, and like it's got my attention. I'm fully focused on it. I'm paying attention to it. I'm enjoying it. But I feel like now, like the attention span, like 25 years ago when you started your business, or, like the attention span was a lot longer. Now it's like even the Super Bowl commercials this last year, it felt like I was watching TikTok, because it was just so many fast cuts and so many changes. How do you get your product message out there successfully when you've got a 10-second attention span?
Yeah. I mean, as you guys probably know, the world of marketing and messaging has done a complete 180, right? So 25 years ago, it was like, I have a great commercial. I want everybody in the world to see it. I want it in the Super Bowl. Now it's done a complete 180 where it's like, I only want my prime perfect prospects to see this, right? I don't want to pay for all the unqualified eyeballs. So the messaging is one thing. Now having that ability to hyper target and only get in front of those people that, hey, Russ likes Sears and history. He's my guy. I'm going to try and find him and target him. So it's kind of a two-pronged approach, getting the messaging right. But now we have all these targeting abilities. Everyone's, tracking and selling data, which is, controversial in some degree. But once you figure out how to harness that, it's almost like, superpower. I tell people, and they're like, "Oh, that's terrible." I'm like, "But I can do it for you." And they're like, "Oh, really? Okay."
Yeah, right. It's like a little magic trick, right? Yeah. I got to tell one quick story. This is just such a random thing. It's a short story. Don't worry, Greg. I know you want to ask a question, but I have, for some reason, this like weird thing going on with my Facebook feed right now, where the ads that I'm getting are for like traffic sign parts, like for building traffic signs. I'm like, what did I watch? Why am I getting this? How did this happen? It's so funny to like when they screw things up and they get the wrong person in there. So I guess the question from this story, and I know I'm interrupting you, Greg, because I know I saw it.
But I'm fascinated by the
going
sign
for
thing,
it.
so
I
want to know what's going on in your head.
Giving you the red light on this one, Greg.
Okay.
But okay, so now the algorithm's wrong, and that happens. It happened to me now, right? So now I've got traffic signs for some reason, and I care nothing about those. But somebody paid for those ads, and they're targeting the wrong group, and they're not, they're paying more because they're targeting this one group. So how do you do this and know that you're doing this correctly so that you're not like targeting the wrong audiences when you're spending all this money to target just the right people?
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to the coin, right? So Facebook has a walled garden. I mean, they're never going to tell you, hey, you can target this guy, that guy, this guy. What they're going to do is say, hey, we can get you the exact lookalike. If someone is searching for traffic sign parts, we can get you right in front of them. So on the good side, Facebook is basically accountable, right? So they have your best interest at heart to make sure your ads, even though you don't know where they're going or who they're going to, go to the right person, because like you said, I'm spending my money and I'm not getting a return, I'm gone, right? So you have someone, a big brand like Facebook, that has your best interest in heart. The downside is you don't get to tinker and kind of see what's going on. So there's different levels of control that you have as an advertiser, different platforms, different privacy legislation that you can get around. But if you're kind of like a mid-level marketer and you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put my money here and have a gigantic brand that has, for what it's worth, a decent reputation. They seem to know what they're doing, although a lot of people would disagree. I'll let them be accountable. And then it's your job as the consumer to maintain, keep an eye on stats. If things are not going well, figuring out ahead of time, proactively jumping in and saying what's going on.
So I'm curious, Jesse, when you meet with a client and they do, a product or a service that is a commodity, right? There's a lot of other competitors, and you do your analysis and trying to figure out what their differentiators are. And you kind of go through that week, the 4 weeks, and you go, gosh, there really isn't a lot different about this product than any other of their competitors, or they're really at a disadvantage than a lot of their competitors because of features or what have you. Like, how do you work with a company like that? What do you do?
So luckily, there's 12 very diverse options in the universe of differentiation. I say we cover everything from GI Joes to Rolexes, right? So there is a spectrum there that usually everyone can fall into. If you're truly commoditized and you're like, hey, I'm just going to ride this to retirement. And I do get that from time to time. I'm just going to hold on for dear life, squeak out as much as I can. Sometimes that's an option, as opposed to taking a risk and kind of rebranding the company. But most of the time, because the universe is so diverse, we can absolutely find you something to sink your teeth into.
Good. That's good. That's promising for all the companies out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. If somebody's listening right now, and aside from contacting you and buying your book, we'll eliminate those two options as the best. But if somebody wanted to do something today, give them just the single bit of advice to help them to stand out, to be that supervillain and stand out.
Yeah, so I'll steal a thought experiment from David C. Baker. I don't know if you guys know who that is.
No.
Two Bob's podcast. He wrote a great book called The Business of Expertise, and it's all about specialization as an agency, finding your differentiator. And the thought experiment is: imagine someone gifted you a full-page ad in the New York Times. What should that ad say? So if you're an agency, you say, hey, we do websites, we do marketing, we do this. You just wasted a full-page ad in the New York Times. What one thing are you going to say that someone reading the Times is going to say, It's not like every other agency out there. That's not like every other phone system out there. So if you could fill in that blank, and it's not an easy experiment, but that's a great way to kind of get the ball rolling in your head. You got this great opportunity. Do not waste it. A lot of times as business owners, put it off till tomorrow, but just give yourself that imaginary deadline and see what comes out of it.
So have you done that exercise for yourself? What would you tell people? What in your one-page ad?
So one of the so I have Decommoditized, which is my personal brand, my personal passion, and my agency, Generations Beyond, that's been running for 25 years. And what we realized upon some further deep research is that a lot of clients that we approach and we didn't sign, they had kind of an underlying anxiety that they came to us to help them brand, help them redesign their website because they're overworked, right? They want to take stuff off their desk. And even though everybody was excited, ready to go, they never signed because subliminally they realized that whenever they hire a new agency, it's actually more work than having the old agency. People give them homework. Hey, we need new copy, we need new photos, we need new stock. So we created a process and we dubbed ourselves the no homework agency, right? So if you're overworked and you don't have enough time to delegate or oversee a marketing campaign, we'll even do vendor accountability for you. So if you have an existing SEO person, of course, they're going to spin the numbers to make themselves look good. We come in as an unbiased set of eyes and kind of keep your vendors in check and say, hey, this is what we see. This is what they could do better, etc. So we did two things. We're the no homework agency and taking one of the planets from the universe of differentiation, differentiating by definitives. We found that people had a fear that you sign a new retainer agreement, everything's exciting, and then slowly that excitement fades and everybody just kind of like, you don't call me, I don't call you, and I keep writing you checks. So we dubbed ourselves the most proactive agency in the world. If you are too busy, we're going to feed you stuff, and all you have to do is, you don't even have to do anything. We'll say, hey, Easter's coming around the corner on Easter, or Easter just passed on Easter, the day before Easter, this is going live. If you have any objections, say no or make a change, but right now, we got your best interest at heart. This is all happening in the background. So unless you see like a huge red flag, we're not going to ask you, hey, what's the sale for Easter? What do you guys want to put out for Easter and make you do work? We're the most proactive agency in the world. So if you don't have time for this, we got your back.
That's great.
Love it.
Because that was always one of my like things that in dealing with either like agency buys or just dealing with like media buys or whatever. It's like, okay, we got the deal done. Now there's all this work to actually make all this happen. Yeah. So it's a lot of work. So I appreciate that. You're filling a great niche there.
Hope so. Yeah. I mean, it's the kind of joke in the industry. If you're running behind, ask the client to do something. You won't hear from them.
Right. Yeah, totally. And then also we want to mention your book one more time here. So hold it up and show people and tell us about it.
Marketing for Supervillains.
There we go.
There we go. So it's available on Amazon. All formats, hardcover. I think you should really treat yourself and get a nice hardcover. But there's paperback and an ebook as well. Covers everything on how to differentiate yourself, along with my journey as a differentiator from birth through COVID to where I am now. And a little pep talk for those that feel, hey, I can't differentiate. I don't think I have anything in there. You can do it. You can do it.
Nice.
And you're also going to be a keynote speaker coming up. Why don't you plug that?
Sure. Keynote for Marcon in Oklahoma City, April 11th and 12th, 2024. In case anyone's listening to this in the distant future. Tickets are still available. And I'll be giving my 6-step plan on how to become a marketing supervillain if you attend. And awesome. everyone that attends gets a free copy of the book. So
awesome.
Thanks.
Hey, there you go.
Will you be handing out capes as well? Because I feel like that would be a good one.
Yeah. Freeze rays, cloning machines.
Nice. Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us and chatting with us tonight and making us feel better about being supervillains.
Absolutely. Right. Nice to have you on in the Legion of Doom. Well,
hey, thanks, Jesse.
Nice. And thank you for listening and subscribing and reviewing DIY for Business. The subjects that we cover on the podcast are selected with the goal of helping your business grow. All of the information provided is opinion-based, and you might want to consult a professional to discuss your exact business situation. Greg and I want your company to succeed, and we are happy to take your questions. We would love to also hear your suggestions for future episodes. If there's an area of your business where you need some solid advice or help, let us know. We might be able to build an entire episode around it and get your questions answered. You can reach out to us by visiting us at DIYforbusinesspodcast.com. The link's in the podcast description. We thank you again for listening and subscribing to DIY for Business, where you are not alone.